Thank you so much. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Woo! I love this slot. It's after the lunch break drinking session. So thank you, Jeremy. And as you said, so I am Julia Linehan, and I'm a founder, and I'm female, which last time I checked. Now, I've always been surrounded by a lot of female founders. Some of them are on my panel. Some of them are here in the audience. And then I thought we were doing really well. I thought we were ahead of ourselves. And then, boom, the stat came out. 5% of founders are female. What the actual fuck was my question to Luke, Dan, and to Ian at MADfest. And I said, can we take to the stage, can we take 19 minutes to now address the balance? So before we start, I want to ask you guys a question. How many people here are female founders? Raise your hands. Firstly, give yourselves a big round of applause. Thank you very much to those. Second question, how many would like to be female founders? Raise your hands. You're gonna be, and these are the people who are gonna tell you how to do it, how to break the barriers that stop you being able to do it, answer the questions you always want asked, and that's it. I think that's it. It's not a lot to do. Ellie, Fern, James, and Tamara, please come and join me on stage. Wonderful. So first up, and we are going to be quite fast-paced here, please do put your headset on. If you're struggling to hear, I'm very loud, as these guys are too, but do put your headset on. You can also send questions through Slider. I'll do my best to come to them. First up, I want to ask each of you your name, your company, and how you set up your company. Fern, I'm going to do something a bit different to you, so I'm going to come Ellie first.
Hi, my name is Ellie Edwards-Scott. I'm co-founder of the Advisory Collective. My co-founder is there in the audience with the blonde curly hair, Lisa Minaldo. We set up our business 4.5 years ago. We're a digital consultancy that helps tech companies land and launch into the UK. How do we do this? We've got experience being agency side. We've run tech companies. And we're badass bitches, so we help companies launch into the UK market.
That she is. Fern, slightly different for you. Fern is, and you can say your name and your company, but Fern is Global Chief Strategy Officer. And I wanted her to say how you work with founders. So if you can introduce yourself.
Yeah, Fern Everall. I'm the Chief Strategy Officer over at Hybrid Theory. And we work with our partners to enable them to have the confidence, the research and the data and the flexible ways of working to enable those startups and businesses to hopefully success and flourish.
James, you're the man on this panel who's also, we thought it's really important to have you as part of the conversation, but I'd love to know for you to tell everybody your name, company, and how you set up multilocal.
Yeah. So I'm James Lever. I'm the Chief Executive of Multilocal, which is the leading audience curation business, programmatic audience curation business. I set it up about 2 years ago with great foresight that there was a global pandemic about to happen. But really, I'd been meaning to set it up for a long time. And the best advice I can give is what I did. I found the right partner. I knew I couldn't do it on my own. I needed to find the right person. And once I did that, it got going.
Last but not least, Tamara.
Hi there, I'm Tamara Littleton, and I'm the founder of The Social Element, which I founded 20 years ago. My late father thinks that I invented social media. I'm not going to tell him otherwise. We're a social media activation agency. We work with amazing people like Oreos and Nissan and Visa. I also set up a second tech company called Polpeo, which is a crisis simulation company where we simulate brands being attacked on social media and then help people train and get through their reputational issues. And I set that one up 9 years ago.
She's so good. She's founded 2 companies. And I'm going to stay with Tamara. And by the way, Tamara and I worked together back in 1999. And I think this next question, this is why it's important. What do you think is stopping women taking the leap in becoming founders?
So, I mean, you mentioned the stat about only 5% founders. I'll give you another stat that last year, according to the Female Founders Report, there was 100 billion of VC funds that went into the UK. 1% went to female founders. And out of that, so essentially that's in every £100, that's 1 pence. No, is it every pound? Every pound, 1 pence goes to female founders. 15 pence went to mixed gender startup teams. 89 pence goes to male founders. So my key thing is, obviously that's a barrier, but it doesn't need to be, because actually I want to sort of fight for companies that start up organically and bootstrap. Because what I did with the social element, I bootstrapped it and built up to a sort of 10 million turnover, and then invested back into myself. So we didn't have to go for funding for Polpeo. I funded myself. And I think there's a lot of kind of like bad press for bootstrapping companies. It's all about funding, funding, funding. Screw that, and screw the patriarchy. I think we need to back ourselves, quite frankly.
Go on, Tamara. And I'm going to stay with you, actually, because sometimes that is a fear. I can't do this. I don't have the backing. I don't have the money. What was the fear you had that didn't realize itself? That actually was not a fear, ended up being something quite good?
So the fear I didn't have, sorry.
A fear that you had, but that doesn't exist. I think a lot of people have fears when they go into this thinking, shit, this is going to be the reality. It isn't the reality. Is there anything you can add?
Well, I don't know whether it was, I always wanted to start a massive agency. I wanted it to be a global, I wanted to take over the world. But one of my sort of beliefs was, what is the worst that can happen? And I think the key thing is, if you give it a go, it's okay to fail. It's okay to change the direction. I mean, I joke about social media. There was no social media when I started. And so I had to pivot the company several times. I rebranded the company seven years ago as well. I think the thing is, you have to just keep going, keep experimenting. And what the worst could happen is I could always start again, get a job. So I think that limiting belief, we need to set ourselves free from that.
I think it's that failure shouldn't be a fear. You can thrive on that. James, coming to you. My question for you, actually, and I've got a couple of them, but how are men able to encourage female founders to flourish?
Yeah, look, I think men need to help and encourage and give more advice and create the space. But actually, I think that, actually something that you just said, the people the people who are investing in companies, until the demographic of them changes, I think it's going to be very difficult for the demographic of the founders to change. People ultimately invest in people they connect with. It's a connection, as opposed, as much as it is the business idea, it's a connection. And you connect with people that you're similar to on the whole. And I think until that changes, I think it's going to be very difficult for that change. But men specifically, creating the space, creating the opportunity, and promoting women as much as they can.
So my other question for you is, and James, you work with a lot of the publishers out there, are you experiencing and seeing any increase in females, more females coming to the table, coming to the C-suite table?
More women.
More women coming to the C-suite table. Are you experiencing that? You work with all these publishers, all these companies.
Not significantly, no. I don't think. It's not a sea change. I think there's incremental improvement as opposed to sort of revolution. It would be good to see more of it. And this is probably the only panel this week where there's only one man on it.
So here's a question, the final one before I'm going to come to you next, Ellie. But James, is there anything that you've experienced as a founder, as a man, that you think a woman wouldn't be able to do?
No. I mean, seriously, nothing. And my best advice is just get on and do it, because it's actually, once you make the jump, it's really good fun. And look, I did the same. I didn't go and raise money. We bootstrapped it, and we continue to do that. So it is possible. We've now got 35 people, and we're growing every month, and it's possible. So just get on and do it. Doesn't matter what sex you are. Get on and do it.
Thank you. And coming to you, Ellie, and of course, we're not only founders, we're also DLL co-founders, along with a few others here.
Several DLL in the audience.
DLL, digital leading ladies. So my question to you is, how can women lean into their networks to help them? Is that going to be part of their story of being able to found companies?
That's a really good question. It's a really important question. And I think, your network is your net worth. And, as somebody who's been in corporate organizations, held senior positions, and then making that transition to go out alone, you really need the strength of your network. You need the strength of your cheerleaders. I mean, I look around in here now, I know you see cheerleaders from all different walks of life, and that's so important, especially as female founders, because often when you're going into rooms, when you're going into situations, when you're pitching for business, it is you as a female versus a swathe of men, and actually having that backup, whether in real life, whether virtually, just knowing that you've got those cheerleaders is really important. Female-led networks are very important, and we are co-founders of DLL, a 350-plus network of kind of mid-senior level women, but also you can't isolate yourself as a female founder, because you need to also lean into men. You need to actually go into these other networks where you get access, where you have different discussions, because it's no point being in that bubble. Actually having access to financial discussions, having access to funding discussions, having access to, just so you know, how you carry yourself in the boardroom, how you present to a VC. It is different. So it's important to have those female-led networks, but also those wider business networks.
So just before, and I think there's it's being each other's cheerleaders. We can see that here with so many at DLL of cheerleading along today. Outside of your communities, outside of these networks, what would be the one place you'd go to for advice?
Wow, I think one of the biggest things as a female founder is looking at that financial acumen is so important. And managing a P&L, managing a business, if you've not had that experience, you need to get that experience, because it's paramount to building and growing and just having those conversations with other companies or other founders that you might be working with. So whether it's your local chamber of commerce, whether it's looking at financial institutes, CIPD, there's so many different business-led networks, but I definitely recommend leaning into one of those to get that financial acumen and understanding.
So if that's the advice, I'm going to come to you, Fern, for the steps. At Hybrid Theory, you deal with a lot of founders and a lot of those companies. How do you advise them that within their own companies, they help women thrive, build, leap, step forward?
Yeah, I think from kind of personal experience as well, what we've found is that women, maybe we think we're more kind of thought out. There tends to be a decision process that takes a bit longer. So with Hybrid Theory, because we sit on all this data and thematic data, we're supporting women in business by providing them with the data, the details, the kind of audience profile, the universe of the business that they're looking to go towards and looking to create, and can provide that information to give confidence in the decision making for when they're creating business cases. And I think the kind of hybrid model of the ways that we work with our businesses as well enable us to be a bit more creative. It's not like just a kind of commission on a channel execution. There's project work, there's consultative, anything through to kind of managed service that might enable businesses to thrive a bit quicker and grow quicker. And it was interesting, I was just chatting before starting on the panel, I've come from the other side as well, where I actually closed a business that I founded this week, and I was like sobbing into ice cream like a fucking cliche, going, oh God, it hasn't worked, what shall I do next? And obviously just gone into my kind of Rolodex of ideas and gone, right, fuck it, I can do this, I'm resilient, because I've learned that through business and the networks that we've got together here, that you can start building other things. So from both sides, from a Hybrid Theory perspective, we're supporting that kind of data-driven decisioning, which I think people talk about a lot, but it does really help back the business cases. And from a personal experience, I'd say, yeah, be resilient as well, and just keep going.
I mean, that leads on, actually, because this whole event is about no guts, no glory. So it felt right to talk about a gutsy move you've made in order to found your own companies. And Fern, I'm going to stay with you for this one, of a gutsy move. Say that company that you had to say, it's not going to work. They're going to have to come back from that. What do they do? What's the piece of advice of be gutsy? It can happen. It will happen. Any advice, Fern, first?
Oh, gosh. As I said, I mean, for me, I think I learned, from a personal perspective, learned a lot about myself, my own resilience, and how to tolerate that, and just how to take advice off other people, and apply that in the room, if that makes sense. I think a lot of the time when you're working through various stages of growing a business, it can be quite intimidating. And I think whilst you've got all this advice in your head, it's just being able to remember the right pieces at the right time and be so overly prepared for anything.
I think it's true. And a lot of people say failure is not an option. That's actually bullshit. Failure is an option. It's okay to fail as long as you learn from it
Absolutely.
and step forward and change and pivot. Ellie, coming to you, a gutsy move you've made that would leads to a piece of advice for our future founders.
God, a gutsy move was walking away from a corporate role in a six-figure salary and setting up my own business. Advice is just do it. There's never, you can ponder of whether there's a right time. You can ponder, can you do it? Yes, you can. And don't be afraid to ask for help, to ask for advice, and to, don't underestimate those coffees. I've drunk multiple coffees. Never say no to meeting somebody for a chat because you never know where it can lead to, but just do it, as Nike says.
Open every door, keep it open and keep opening them. James, coming to you, you mentioned you set up multilocal at the start of a pandemic. Was that the gutsy move, and what piece of advice would you give? Or is there something else that was really gutsy?
Yeah, look, I think anyone who sets up a business, it's a gutsy move. Once you decide you're not going to go and apply for or take that big job with a salary, it's a gutsy move. It doesn't matter when it is. Unfortunately for us, it was 2 months before a pandemic hit. But it's worked out all right. But I think it's never the right time. If you've got the idea, and the idea for me for me with multilocal, it was buzzing around in my head for 3 or 4 years, maybe longer. I wish I'd done it earlier. At the same time, I'm glad I didn't, because I picked up more experience along the way before I actually did jump. But there's never a right time. Just basically, if you've had the idea and it feels, and you've got a couple of the table stakes there, then jump, basically.
Perfect. And your proof is in the pudding that gutsy move at the start of pandemic works. Tamara, 2 companies, lots of gutsy moves to get those founded and up and running.
Sure. Well, I think when I speak to other founders, I think people struggle with how much you should charge, what is your worth, rate cards, all of that kind of thing. Something that and it's something I struggled with at the beginning as well. One of my gutsiest moves was flying out to renegotiate a contract that was over £1 million with a major entertainment brand. And when we got to the negotiation, they said, we're going to break for lunch, and we want you to come back with your best price. And we came back with exactly the same price, and we said, we're worth it, and they agreed, and they signed.
Yeah, woo! That's it, thank you. And I'm going to stay with Tamara, and I'm going to ask each of them to finish this sentence, to finish us out. Tamara, best piece of advice you've ever been given?
It's come up today on the panel, but I think it's okay to be a bit sort of smoke and mirrors at the beginning. It's okay to fake it until you make it. You are going to mess up. Just keep going.
Fern, I am most optimistic about?
The future of women in ad tech.
Ellie, I am most proud of?
I'm most proud of being part of an industry which is slowly but surely recognizing that we can widen the doors, we can put down that ladder, we can just include more people. I've been in this industry for 20 plus years, and we're now getting some more diverse voices, and I'm most proud of being part of this industry and helping champion that.
Thank you. And James, to finish, my biggest hope for the industry is?
That we don't need to have panels like this in the future, because it works.
Yes.
Perfect. I've got one final thing I want to put out there. I'm going to challenge myself to be on this stage in 12 months' time with 3 new female founders that founded in the next 12 months. So come and see me. Come and see me next year. From the founders of today to the founders of tomorrow. Thank you, Ellie, Fern, James, and Tamara.
Thank you.